over here.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Kim Shelley, Executive Director of the Department of Environmental Quality.
Hello, everyone. Ricky Ranko Browning, President of the Utah Petroleum Association, representing industrial interests.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Warren Peterson. I represent the water attorney position on the board, and I don't know what organization to describe me being part of. I am a retired from the organization that I last worked for and have gone into full-time troublemaking. How's that?
So I'm Joel Ferry, Director of the department here. So great to be with you. Thank you.
Todd Stonely, Assistant Director with the Division of Water Resources, here to support the council.
Nathan Dowgs, representing the Bear River Watershed Council.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Marcel Shoup. I'm with National Audubon Society, and I'm representing the environmental conservation interests.
Candace? Oh.
Candace Hassemaker, Director of Water Resources.
Keep going, Dan.
Keep going.
Oh.
Dan Adams, I'm consultant helping Water Resources.
Eric McCulley with the Utah Reclamation, Mitigation, and Conservation Commission.
Evan Curtis, Governor's Office of Planning and Budget.
Andy Rasmussen, the Langdon Group. Peter Gessel, here for the Langdon Group.
Hollywood. Christy Hansen, Bear River Watershed Council Chair.
Canal. Sterling Brown, Strawberry Water Users.
Rich Mickelson, Timpanogos Special Service District and the Utah Lake Watershed Council.
Corey Pierce, Spanish Fork City and Utah Lake Watershed Council.
Joe Crawford, Central Utah and Utah Lake Watershed Council.
Darren Hess with Weber Basin Water, here with the Weber River Watershed Council.
Wes Sidaway here with the Weber River Watershed Council.
Jeff Young here with the Weber River Watershed Council.
Teresa Wilhelmsen, State Engineers in the back, and we have Shannon Clow and Carly Payne with the Division of Water Resources as well.
Great, thank you. And we've got a few online. We've got Mark Stratford. And who else? Oh, and Craig Butters, yes, from Ag and Environment. So.
And Ken White as well. Ken White from USU.
Ken White from USU.
That's it.
Okay. Well, that's quite a group. I appreciate that. And especially like to welcome those from the watershed, the local watershed councils, representing each of their councils. This is what we're here for, so appreciate their attendance. I'd like to start off with approval of the minutes from April 12th meeting. Any comments, concerns, questions on those minutes?
Yeah, pardon me, I'm the OCD person on minutes, and there were some things in there that I think some auto transcription and so on needed to be cleaned up. In general, I don't know whether to defer the minutes. My preference, I think, would be to approve the minutes subject to just some grammatical corrections and such. So if I can, I'll make that motion to approve the minutes in substance as presented with some grammatical corrections.
Okay. Looking for a second.
I'll make that second.
Great. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes with some corrections as mentioned. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Say nay. The motion carries. Thank you. Yes.
Excuse me, I abstain. For the record, I abstain because I wasn't here at the last meeting, but my proxy, who was here, Megan Nelson, did indicate that the minutes were consistent.
Okay,
with the meeting,
perfect.
so.
All right, thank Thank you. We'll put that in the minutes. Thank you. Okay, next item, revisions to the local council organizing documents, the template. So we've received those, a copy of that template on the website as well as in the email from Carly. And hopefully you've had a chance to look at those briefly. It was, with the underlining and highlighting and everything else that was going on, it was really hard to tell what was actually changed, but, but if Nathan or anybody would like to explain what some of the changes were, that'd be great.
Peter here.
Oh, Peter, yes.
Yeah,
sorry.
Peter Gessel.
Sorry, Peter.
I was up here because I saw my name on the agenda.
You're,
I'm not the best qualified to explain this, but we did get some feedback, some concerns expressed by some of the local watershed councils in their formation process were working through the previous version of the documents. Some things were brought to our attention, and we decided to pull out the big guns. And so Mr. Peterson of this of this body, of this Utah Watersheds Council, stepped up to fill the gap and put in some what would have once have been very expensive time re-editing this, although less than what he should charge now that I'm in downtown Salt Lake. But yes, put in some time, and honestly, he would be he's the best qualified to explain what changes have been made in this.
Warren, yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Peter, I'm over here drawing Venn diagram circles and trying to get Mr. Peterson and Big Gun and those sort of things to overlap, and I'm not seeing any overlap there. I did spend time talking with Dan and Andy and Peter, but also with some folks that are working actively on putting together local councils. And there's a couple of things in here that two big items. One is they said, could you make it just more plain language so that it's people don't have to pretend to be a lawyer to sit through one of these meetings. And so I know this is a distinct conflict of interest, but as a lawyer that's had some business executive background and so on, I tried to be that bridge. And whether I did so or not would be up to the other council members to objectively evaluate. Just be kind, but objectively evaluate still. The other is that there was one place in particular, and I'm going to try to find that, where the document that we had worked on before, I know there was some discussion in here of who needs to be, what stakeholder groups need to be represented. And we had language in the document that said the council must have this many members. It was between 9 and 21 or something to that effect, and that was the recommendation of this council. But one local council in particular objected to that, said we want to be a little more flexible with that number. So what I suggested here was, if you look at page 3, let's see, I'll make sure I'm on the right. Yeah, actually, excuse me, page 4, the footnote wound up being on page 4. I took that part instead of saying must, because frankly the statute doesn't say it has to be a specific number. So I thought it was probably we were extending beyond our legislative delegation by putting a specific number limit. So I took that part out and then relegated to footnote status the recommendation from this council that it be between 9 and 21. Because truly, that is up to the local councils how they wish to do that. And then second, we have that list in the statute starting on page 3 and going on to page 4 of the proposed document here, of the stakeholder interests that should be represented on the council according to the statute, but reinstating the language that was in the statute but was not in our document, that this should be done where feasible of at least these interests. And that flexibility right there was a very specific complaint from a couple, but one in particular of the local councils trying to organize. They said they had followed the efforts of the Jordan River Commission to bring in their proposal, and said, you know, for the Jordan River Commission, their comment was, Jordan River Commission, that works good. Rural Utah, maybe not.
Right.
And so give us a little more flexibility. So I revised it to show the list from the statute, and then to say, now that's what the statute says, but here's what we say. And that's in subparagraph C on page 4. So those are the two key changes. I'd offer that the other things are just some editing to make it a little more user-friendly. So unless there's any questions, Mr. Chair, I'll return it back to you.
Thank you, Warren. Any questions or comments on the changes? Yes, Kim.
I just have a question. It's really not substantive, but it's on my page 10, section 5 with regular meetings. So the edits add in, meetings shall be held quarterly or more frequently as determined by the chair or the council. I just want to maintain the authority of the chair, and I'm curious why the council could call themselves in more frequently.
That was a judgment, good question, and a judgment call on my part that sometimes you get a chair who's obstinate and council members who maybe want to do it differently. So spreading out that responsibility or that opportunity.
Any other questions? Yes.
Kim, were you done? Were you done? Okay. I had 2 questions. On page 2, under the, I guess these are suggestions about accomplishing duties, and maybe this is just an additional item, but on item 3, it talks about publishing the agenda on the division's Watershed Council's website, and I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't in lieu of the Utah Public Notice website, and I might have if I missed that in the document already, let me know, but.
Great question.
It is a great question. My question was really, maybe I should ask Mr. Gessel if he has an opinion on this. I wasn't sure, frankly, whether the local watershed councils would be operating subject to the Open and Public Meetings Act. And so the question really was, where do we want that? So thank you, good catch. Where do we want that notice to be published? It seems like if we want to be on the safe side, it should be the state website.
Yeah, I can address that. The statute does require that it's posted to the Utah Public Notice website. You're subject to those rules and regulations. So this is just supplementing that on our webpage where we have other information about the councils. We would also post it there. So there's another section in here that describes that they're subject to the Open Public Meetings Act.
Okay, and I missed that, but I would just wonder here if it just would clarify in addition to or something. Just
good point.
Somebody
somebody
misses it like I missed it. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so emailing the agenda when it is published, along with documents. So I guess the question is, we've set up the idea that there are those who might send in a note or request that they be on the notice list for the meetings. And so whether this Watershed Council's website or the specific email notice, maybe it's not clear which should be done there. And I suspect maybe we should clarify that, because going back, the Open and Public Meetings Act, for instance, if I send in, and if I'm a member of the, interested member of the public in a particular watershed's locale, and I've asked to receive notices, I think that's just an effective way to make sure the notice is given. But it's not required by the Act, the Open and Public Meetings Act. It's not required by this Act. But is this something that the local council would want to make allowance for It's a judgment call on their part, and then they, or otherwise just do it on, use the Water Council's website. Because that is an insertion there, isn't it, Todd?
Yeah, we thought we could help provide this service where we could have people subscribe and unsubscribe on their own to our own website email service. But I've kind of hesitated back and forth on that, how involved we would be in doing that. Obviously, we've offered that service, so we're committed to it. But if it's redundant and unnecessary with the public meeting website, maybe this whole item can be stricken from it as kind of superfluous, really.
It's better to over-communicate.
Absolutely.
So I think as long as it's clear that it's not an either or, it's an in addition to, and maybe we clean up the language or just make it clear in the language here that that's an addition. What would, Marcel, what would your?
That was all, just to clarify that, I mean, that's great, and I agree. Communicating is wonderful, and so if it was just clarified that it's not in lieu of any public meetings notification requirements.
So I think I'd ask Mr. Gessel to help with a redraft toward being clear about Marcel's question. If that's, am I in order to bounce past you, Mr. Chair, to?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Excuse me. I think in the process, I think it's worth, in addition when mentioning the public notice website, if we can give instructions there that really what they need to do is get the agenda to Water Resources, to Todd, and use those channels to get it on that website as well.
That's an excellent idea. You said 2 questions.
Yes, thank you. I have one other. Our rules allow for proxies for if there's a vote. And my question is, would it be helpful to put some suggested language in the organizing document for proxies if, in fact, somebody wanted to have that? And that, that doesn't mean that, I guess you couldn't have somebody, step in for you to I don't know how it's not clear to me how the local watershed councils are going to handle if somebody doesn't show up but there's a vote, or they've sent their, number 2 or whatever it is, somebody else in their place. Is that person able to exercise a vote? And I'm not saying we have to make a proxy a mandatory thing, but I just think it would be helpful to provide some language to suggest that if they wanted to go that route.
I agree, and I thought it was very helpful the way you handled that in the last meeting of this council, so maybe we use that as a template and say if this option is made available as part of your local council organization, then here's a format that you could use to make a clear record of that authority and the participation that would come from the, how should we call it, the stand-in?
So it sounds like though we need to have something in here that describes that just a little bit.
That would be my suggestion, so thank you. But those are the 2 that I had.
Thanks, Marcel. Yes, Ricky.
So just to follow up on that, on section 4, it looks like it actually says members may not designate proxies to act or vote in their steads. So
Interesting.
on page 5.
I'm glad you're looking at that because
I don't,
right
that
at the
should
top.
be underlined because pretty sure that's not prohibited by the act.
it's not.
No.
It's not provided for by the act and it's not prohibited by the act. So that would go back to probably the notion that I think you're describing, Marcel, of giving the local council the option of doing that. So either they either adopt thou shalt not, or they say you can, and here's how you would do it.
So this is the way it was originally written, or
This is,
edited, but
yes, that is correct.
so if there's a discussion from the board of whether that should change or not, it'd probably be a good time to do that. We've already accepted it once, passed, so.
So,
As it stands now, there's no.
Right, there's no way to progress.
so may I ask, so the language that was written here, about no proxies is or is not from the statute?
Is not.
It's not from the
Is there a
statute.
reason it was put in here before?
I don't remember the discussion. I'm not sure.
I know we had a big discussion on our rules about whether there would be a proxy. And so,
I'll just add that I think if we as a board are allowed to have proxies, then those additional members from the local councils that are going to be part of this board should also have the opportunity to have proxies, in my opinion, as long as they're following their own bylaws and naming and placing those proxies.
Yeah, and make it an orderly process.
Makes sense, yes.
thanks.
Okay.
So do we have any leanings? I'm guessing we would rather have that opportunity or that flexibility to have proxies. Is that correct, everyone?
I'd be of a mind to, should we leave it to the local council, or should we simply leave the option to the local council?
An option.
Choose one of these two.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Okay, great, good discussion. Okay, anything else on the organizing document templates?
Well, if we're at the end of discussion, Mr. Chair, I'd move that we adopt this amended, updated with the three things noted, and I'm not sure I can pull those off the top of my head, Kim, because I'm not remembering you.
Oh, mine was just a general question. I'm not suggesting any action. So maybe there's only two things then.
But we had the three things then were how notice of the meeting is given, and just clearing that it could be done, that it would be done by notice to the members directly and those who request notice, and the public meetings website and the division's website as well.
Right.
And then making the either or option for you can have proxies or you can't, but if you're going to have them, here's a format. Am I missing anything else? So I'd move that we approve this template with those two things to be updated by Mr. Gessel and the Langdon Group for publication out to the members. Or publication period, for that matter.
Okay, thank you, Warren. We have a motion on the table. Second from Marcel, or
I'll second it.
a second from Marcel. Any comments on the motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Peter. Okay, next item is follow-up on conditional certification of the local watershed councils. These are the two watershed councils that we were presented to us 2 meetings ago, and I think certified. The AG has done his review, as well as our council, in-house council. So, Todd, why don't you go ahead and address anything that needs to be addressed there?
Yeah, so Marty Bushman, our AG counsel with the Division of Water Resources, has reviewed the Bear River Watershed Council's organizing documents as requested, and he found them to be in compliance with the Watershed Council's Act. So he was good with approving those. There was one item in their document. They did not designate an anchor location, so they need to add that to it. That was Marty's only comment where that on that document. Otherwise, he was good with it.
Great, that was for the Bear River?
Bear River Watershed Council, yeah, thank you.
Okay. And anything on the Jordan River?
On the Jordan, Soren Simonson and the Jordan River Commission are still working to update their bylaws as requested. And there's a few questions on some of their members as well that they're trying to work through. So they're not ready to
okay.
Marty hasn't had the chance to review their bylaws, but they're planning to have that done by the October meeting.
Great. Great. So Christy, any comments on that review?
Sure.
Great. Yes, right here.
Just a couple things. I wanted to speak a little bit to the changes in the template that you were just talking about, because where rubber meets the road on that. We took the suggestion of no proxies, and as I was listening, I thought, you know what? It really encourages meeting attendance. And when you have to have a quorum of half of your board members there to vote on anything that encourages people to come and pay attention to meetings and be there is good. Our council has, our secretary resigned. So we no longer have 21, what was kind of the max of the limit. We now have 20. And I don't know, this was another question I had for you on the organizing docs. There was no suggestion of a secretary. But if you're looking at these positions as volunteer time, the chair does everything. And so if you can split out, and you can use ours as a template for that, with a secretary, just the more you can, have leadership, but then having secretarial executive backup is huge. So that's my feedback on that. Yep, that's basically it.
Great. Good points on the proxy too, I thought.
Mr. Chair, if I may respond to one item, and that is that one of the changes made in here is it said the chair shall prepare, the chair shall do this, and I changed it to say the chair shall assure that it's done.
Yes, that too. Yeah.
So and a question, if I may, wouldn't we anticipate that with whatever changes we've made, that if the local council wants to adopt that, they're certified now.
Right.
They can go ahead and make the changes as needed.
I was listening carefully to your conversation, because all of the document, your template, are what we passed, says that we can amend those at any time with board approval. So, yeah, there is a lot of flexibility there, but.
At the risk of being too pushy here, should we have a motion to a motion of this council affirming that the conditions have been met, and so the approval for the Bear River Watershed Council is no longer.
I think it needs to be formal. Yes. Yeah, that would be great. Looking for a motion.
Let's have
I'll
the
make that motion.
There we go.
The Bear River Watershed Council.
Great. We have a motion and a second.
By Bear River people, no less.
Yes, awesome. To approve, I'm not sure exactly how to state this, to approve the certification of the Bear River Watershed Council, right? And so all in, any comments or comments on that motion and second? So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now, having done that, is there a location?
Oh, the reason why we discussed that at our meeting and left it and didn't come to, because we're such a broad locale that we have been meeting most often in the Bear River Water Conservancy District offices. But, and so my understanding, the anchor location, unless otherwise designated, that's very flexible. So, that's what I'm intending to put there, and we'll make that clear at our next meeting on September 21st.
Great. Yeah, good.
And we'll thank Todd for putting that on screen with a flashing red light.
So to finish the motion, any opposed to the motion? Great. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Thanks, Christy. All right. Moving along, we've got certification of a couple more watershed councils, so we're excited. So let's talk about the Weber River Watershed Council first. And you've all received actually both the documents, or documents from both of these councils. But any comments, questions, concerns about the documentation from the Weber River Watershed Council?
Mr. Chair, just to let you know that our AG has reviewed their organizing documents as well and had some minor edits to it that were mostly just removing some of the commentary that was part of the template, the footnotes and other things. I believe that was the Weber's. But yeah, so he has given his thumbs up on it.
And we have Jeff Young, who was voted in as the chair of that organization. Jeff, you have any comments to start off with or concerns?
No, well, yeah, a few comments that I'd just like to recognize that we have our vice chair and secretary, Wes Sidaway and Darren Hess, and also a member, Rick Smith, that attended here today, and appreciate their support to come here.
Absolutely.
Our Watershed Council felt like we needed a secretary, so we added language in the template. We followed the template and added that language so that we could have a secretary. We, looking through our document, we also did not designate in the document an anchor location, but seems to me that we had settled on one, that it would be at the Weber Basin Water Conservancy, and I'm pretty certain that that's where we had decided to have our anchor locations.
Great. Good. Any other comments? Yes, Ricky.
Yeah, I do have a question on the representation. It looks like we've got 3 agricultural representatives, and then 2 folks listed under industry. And with all due respect to the Farm Bureau, who we work with closely, we really respect, I question about the industry representation and if that's truly a reflection of a broad group of industry interests along the Weber River, if there are other folks that maybe could be included in that group.
We've reached out to other folks, and that's kind of who has attended our meetings and has responded to our invitations. I understand your concerns and anticipated the question, but trying to put representation in each of those groups, as you notice, we've tried to find representation in each one of those classifications and also throughout the geography of the watershed, and we have 3 agricultural representatives, and we added a third one because we had no one from Morgan County that was on the council, so kind of fit in that realm better than other ones. I think that regardless of what your interest may be, if you're representing it or what if you're a member of Farm Bureau or something and you're asked to represent an industry, that you can take that position, that where you sit at the certain time might determine what positions you take in various discussions. So
where you stand may depend on where you sit.
Any other questions or comments? Great. I thought it was very well written, well organized. I was just surprised on what the attendance that was there, because I attended that first council, Watershed Council, and I was just excited to see the number of people there. So that was a great thing to see. Okay. If nothing else, then I'd like to entertain a motion to accept their application for certification.
I'll make that motion to accept the Weber Basin's or Weber's Watershed Council certification.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the Weber River Watershed Council. Any discussion on the motion again? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jeff.
This is exciting to see these falling into place now.
Exactly. Absolutely it
Dropping
is.
like flies.
Yes. Okay, I'd like to invite the Utah Lake Watershed Council Chair up here. Very good. And again, we've seen and we're able to review their application, and just looking for comments, questions, but to start with, why don't you introduce yourself and have, if you have any comments or questions going forward, sorry.
So I'm Joe Crawford, and I representing the Provo River Watershed Council. I'm the chair of the Utah Lake Watershed Council, and we too decided to fill the secretary. So Corey Pierce is our secretary, and Richard Mickelson is the vice chair. And I guess really, as I've been thinking about it, as we've had the first couple of meetings and looking around the room with people on the council, I almost feel like everybody is just like super qualified. And we have like an all-star team, just very great, knowledgeable people, and I'm excited to work with them. And I know that every one of them has different talents and different, just a lot of things that they can bring to the table to help with bring this Utah Lake Watershed Council and make the watershed better. So
Great.
I'm excited to work with everybody.
Good, good. Awesome. So bring that back to the board. Any comments or questions? Yes, Warren?
Well, first of all, thank you for being here. Would you, this may be an unfair question, but I want to ask it. I'm wanting to check the enthusiasm level. You've done quite a bit of Utah Lake organizing in the last 2 years with the Utah Lake Authority, and then now with this Utah Lake Watersheds Council. I hope we're not creating any participant fatigue.
Redundancy.
and redundancy, yes.
So that is a good question, and I know we have Eric Ellis on our council from the Utah Authority, and when he came to the meeting, I was actually super excited because I just feel like the expertise that he brings, the knowledge that he has to the Utah Lake and its environment and the watershed is a huge bonus for us. And that's after our first meeting, I was talking to at least a couple people, and they were like, we really need like Eric Ellis on our committee, our council. And so, so far, I mean, I don't want to speak for Eric, but he seems very willing. He seems excited. And so I think it does, instead of having like getting tired, I think for me in my position, the way I see it is just to get it even more excited, to help the management of the watershed even further along, bring all the areas of expertise. And this is just another, in my opinion, just like another piece of that puzzle in helping the watershed.
Great.
Well, that's
good to hear.
That's the idea. Good. It's a very strong cast that you have, and well, that's true for all of these councils. It's a very good group that you've put together.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could, I just have a couple of questions, a little different from Warren, but I agree that the participation fatigue is real. And I'm thinking of you personally in your role with the Provo River Watershed Council. I know that you're the chair, as I understand it. Is that right? And so you'll also be the chair of this. I'm just curious how it's a 4-year term for you, or you're a 2-year term for both?
A 4-year term.
4-year. Okay. Is that for the local watershed council as well?
Provo River Watershed Council is for a year.
Okay.
And that's the way it's written in our agreement.
Okay, just curious about that. Thank you. Just looking through on the other members, I noticed that stormwater and recreation have yet to be filled. Have you had much success or interest from those sectors?
Scott Bird was from wastewater, for the stormwater. Thank you. I knew the word. Anyway, I've reached out to him. He was highly suggested. I'm still waiting to hear back from him.
Okay.
But everyone from the council has been, anyway, they're very confident that he would be a great representative. And so I'll continue to work and reaching out to him. But yeah, so I'm fairly confident that will happen, and I think he'll do a great job as being that representative.
Okay, fantastic. And I just want to offer the Division of Water Quality, if they can help not put pressure, but maybe encourage some folks to put their name in. We'd be happy to do that for you. And then the last question is for Todd. I just wanted to confirm that the AAG has also reviewed this for completeness. Is that right?
Yeah, I was going to step in if you didn't ask, but thank you. Marty has reviewed this also and has found just one minor edit that I'll pass on to the council, but otherwise looked good to him.
Okay, anything else? Good comments, everyone. Warren?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I see that the representative designated to the Utah Watershed Councils is present today. My question would be if as these are approved, if the representative is present, after approval, might they take their place at the table here along with the rest of the council? I mean, we don't have any swearing-in ceremonies or anything of the sort, so. Not yet. Not yet, okay.
That makes perfect sense.
But we have to have a motion first before we.
Yes, yeah. Okay, looking for a motion to accept certification, to accept the application for certification.
I'll move that we accept the application, Utah Lake.
I'll second that.
Great, thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept the Utah Lake Watershed Council's certificate and certify their application. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thanks, Joe. And you may take your seat. Is he the chair?
Sterling is.
Oh, Sterling. Oh, I didn't know. It was different.
Where's the throne?
Anywhere here, right here. Great. Welcome, Sterling. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, we're not going to let him get off so easy as to just sit down without at least introducing himself. I'm not offended at all if I'm, but.
Push that button there. Right, yep.
Sterling Brown. I'm currently the general manager with the Strawberry Water Users Association. Our office is in Payson. 100 years ago, the pioneers built the Strawberry Reservoir, and we import some of that water from that reservoir across the Colorado Basin Divide to the Great Basin Divide, and we use that water for agriculture from Springville south to Santaquin, about 61,000 acre feet. We generate electricity with it first and then give it to our irrigators. So that's my professional job. I graduated from BYU in agronomy, spent my first half of my career with the Utah Farm Bureau, largely in public policy arena.
Great, thank you, Sterling. Appreciate that. All right. So moving on, we're working through this agenda pretty quickly. So we're open to a public comment period. Do we require that every meeting? Is that what we have on the agenda?
That's on the agenda,
So,
according to the
in
chair.
other words, it's your time. Anybody that has any questions or comments for the Watershed Council? Candace, come on up.
Surprised myself by this one. First off, I just want to thank you very much, all of you, for being willing to participate in this State Watershed Council. As you guys all know, this is very new, and this is yours to create. We are here to help you, but at the end of the day, we want this to be what you want it to be. So I would love to, and you don't have to fill on the spot unless you feel like you've got something right off, but solicit feedback on how is it going, what things maybe do you want to see different or changed, what other types of items would you like to see on the agenda? Do you want to go on a tour? Do you want to, I mean, we could get creative, but at the end of the day, we want this to, be something that you are feeling good about, that you're passionate about, and that you want to come to these meetings because they make a difference. And so I guess that's just kind of an open-ended question. Happy to take any feedback right now, but also, you know, if there's specific things that you want on the agenda for next time, or, you know, I was thinking, well, it'd be pretty nice if you guys are starting to you know, have these local watershed councils to go do a tour of the area, see what's going on. That might be something that may be interesting to you, that we could plan for, maybe not obviously by this next meeting, but we could plan for in the future. So that's just my little plug there. Happy to have you here and all the work that you're doing. And yeah, welcome for any feedback, or you can just send me an email too.
Just my comment was that Corey and I have had a conversation about this a little bit, but we feel like our first requirement or responsibility is to get these local watershed councils organized. But absolutely, we want to have some presentations from, we've got, I think, a list of 3 or 4 that we've listed already that we would like to hear from, and just, but a tour would also be, I think, a great idea to get out in the field and understand how these watershed councils really work on the ground. So, yeah, absolutely. Any other comments? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, could I throw out, to maybe have the 2 chairs of these 2 councils until they get their designatee to maybe participate in this conversation? So that'd be Eric and Jeff. I think this is a good conversation for these folks already here to be a part of.
Yeah.
Sorry. Absolutely. Peanut gallery conversation. You know,
So are we inviting them up to the table?
Yeah, come on up, Jeff and Eric.
Well, and for that matter, yeah, please don't hesitate, Jeff. But also, our approval, conditional approval of the Jordan River Council also said that they would be able to send their representative here. So I see Soren sitting here.
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
I think our briefer is gonna be the designee, but for now, I'm the chair.
Oh, very good.
Watershed Council. We are meeting next week to work some details out.
Oh, well, thank you.
Eric McCulley. I'm the chair of the Jordan River Watershed Council.
Great. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks.
So Warren, did you have some comments?
Well, I was going to bring this up later as we wrap up, but since Candace has invited it now, thank you, Candace. Yes, this group is intended to be a clearinghouse for water issues for the state, and to gather information from the local councils and other things that we might identify as a state council, and then be able to condense that information and use it to advise the legislature and the governor's office. So it's a pretty heavy responsibility, and we've been in the formation process, but with the help of the division, we're maturing. We're getting to that point. So, Mr. Chair, with your leave, I'd suggest a couple of, well, 3 items for our future agendas, possibly our next agenda. One of them now, we have councils organized now in 4 out of the 5 local watershed councils that would be part of the Great Salt Lake Basin Council. The one that's missing is the West Desert, and I think that's going to take a lot of road time for Dan and his crew to.
So we have an initial convening meeting with that group set already? Sorry, we have initial convening for that council. What's next week? Wow. Next week, so they'll hopefully be ready for the next council.
Wow, great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So with the amount of organization, you know, don't get that microphone too far away from Dan, because the amount of organization that's been put in place now, we could be proceeding full on with getting the Great Salt Lake Basin Council organized. So I'd hope that's, if not a presentation of a proposal from them, at least a status report on organization of that Basin Council for the next next meeting. I know a lot of things are being organized regarding Great Salt Lake, but this one is one that was designed in the act to coordinate. And speaking of which, then the next item would be to request the presence of the estimable Dr. Brian Steed here in the next council meeting to talk about how he envisions interaction between this council as well as the local council, the Great Salt Lake Local Council, and the office, his office as the Great Salt Lake Commissioner. And along with that, would it be, Marcel, I'm sorry, I'm launching this with no warning, but I think it would be helpful to us to also understand what's being done by the Great Salt Lake Trust and how we can help augment the efforts of that organization. So I've kind of lumped the Salt Lake ones together under one item, but it's really three separate items. Well, I put it as two, but it's really three. One, a discussion from the Great Salt Lake Commissioner and the Great Salt Lake Trust. And then the last item I had on my list was a report on legislation that we might be anticipating this year. Last year we had a flood of water legislation, and if we're going to be doing the same this year, it might be helpful for this group to be able to anticipate with that legislation and possibly give some input to the legislature as described in the statute as part of our duties for their upcoming session. So that and thank you. That and a thank you to our chair and co-chair and to the division for helping get this going.
Mr. Chair.
And the Langdon Group.
Yes.
I have a thought that might be a 2A to Warren's list of potential agenda items, and that would be, unless the board has already done this in previous meetings, a presentation that attempts to visually outline other water entities. For example, the Water Development Commission. Who is it? What is their charge or their jurisdiction, so to speak?
Yeah.
We have the Utah Water Users Association that all of us are familiar with. What is its specialty or expertise? We have the Watershed Councils, and I'm drawing a blank here, but there's a number of them out there. How do they fit together? What are their charges? How do they complement each other? How does this now fit into what's, all of that kind of thing, so that we try to minimize the overlap, I would think, and try to move everything forward in its rightful place.
Great question, because we've had a little bit of that discussion before of it. It seems like there's been a lot of overlap, and there seems to be more and more overlap as new councils, boards, commissions are created. And so how do we minimize that meeting fatigue again, but identify what each of those, I think that's a great idea. Identify the organizations and what their responsibilities are, and make sure we don't have a lot of overlap, and try to minimize that as much as possible. But I think that's a great point.
If I can just add to that, the Natural Resource, Ag, and Environment Committee also picked this up, and I think I'm going to point to Craig on this one. I think it was his suggestion that they picked this up, and because there were over 75 boards and commissions in just the water space, and so there was an initial conversation, and I understand that the chairs are meeting with agency leaders here in the next few weeks, and I don't know if there's going to be a report out on the next committee meeting in
I'm not
August.
sure. I'm not sure when there'll be a final report, but I do know that for the last couple of years or so, we've had a document compiling the list of those different entities and the responsibilities that they have, and I'd be happy to send that out to the council and try and get more information about when the legislative committee will be reviewing that and the recommendations that they'll be making. One of the governor's initiatives is to try and decrease the number of boards and commissions that we have. And I think last session we got rid of 15 but created 19 or something like that. And so we're not moving in the right direction, but it is my hope also that we can do away with overlap. And one of the well, I won't start citing different boards or commissions where I see some overlap, but I think it's a good goal, and it makes us all more efficient if we can spend our time focusing on the issues at hand without rehashing those decisions and that information in other meetings. So
Yeah, great. Thanks, Greg. Good suggestion. Thank you. Yes, Warren.
Sorry, I don't know how many bites at the apple I get today, but when this organization was put together, the Watersheds Council, it anticipated the very thing that's been talked about here, is to become a clearinghouse to help reduce, first of all, to look for synergies and help the different organizations share resources and so on, so to become a clearinghouse. And that's a pretty tall order.
Yeah.
And it's going to take, frankly, a lot of support from the division to help do that. And I guess there's a call for us to step up to the table and fulfill that function too. I'm just going to call him out because our colleague on this council, Dr. White, has been sitting through meetings like this all day now. But to be able to call in the type of resources that we can see from his perspective as well, and to feed back through this council how we can help the needs of water planning and water coordination and so on throughout the state. So that's our goal. That's the purpose for this council being organized. So your suggestion, Sterling, is, boy, you came in strong.
Here's another idea for Candace is taking notes, I see. Would it be beneficial for the board to brainstorm a 3, 4, 5-year plan where we want to, as a board, we want to tour these 3 facilities in the next 5 years. We want to accomplish these 2 or 3 things in the next, or maybe you've already done some or all of that. I'm just thinking out loud, but could we put together a 5-year plan as a board, at least an initial one?
Yeah.
So we can have something to, a finish line or a measuring stick as a board.
It'll be a great goal. I don't think that's happened at all yet, so that would be a great goal.
Just to add on to that, when we first started down this process, we had listed out a number of different watersheds that we wanted to bring in. And I'm curious if we have a prioritization or an additional list of who's coming next. And selfishly, we had talked about the Uinta Basin coming in front of this group. Just curious who else we have out there and where we're prioritizing those.
So Uinta Basin, that is probably the next tree to fall. We're set there to meet with all the great work that water quality is already done there. So we're just going to build off that what Christine Osborne has done. Andy, and then Sevier River, Warren and I have been talking about that, and a lot of others about having an initial convening there. So those are the 2 that are probably the next. And then the Virgin River is also, I think, pretty primed for us to get going there as well. So a lot of the focus in recent months, because of a lot of other things going on, has been to get the 5 that made up the Great Salt Lake going. But then we also got feedback from the other ones saying, hey, don't forget us, we're ready to go too. So, but I would say Uinta and then Sevier, and like I already mentioned, West Desert, that one, I think we'll be ready for the next one, so.
Thanks.
Can I throw one more thought out since I do have
Just sit down.
All right. So one other thing I think is important, and I think you're kind of already hitting on it in the conversation you're just having, but I think like a lot of the comments we get from everybody we talk to all over the place is, all right, so what's the real value of participating in this? With all the other things going on, what's the value? And the thing that we, communicate to folks is that the value is not only this convening, but it's also that this group then gives a very large, diverse group of interests from throughout the state to go to the legislature and to go to the governor. And I think that kind of tied to the point of like what Sterling's saying is like, what's next? Should we create a plan? I think maybe be thinking about January is coming up pretty quick, and to be thinking about, are there things that where you all want to be organized with your thoughts or your process, that you can be an extension of water resources to help communicate some of those goals and objectives and needs, so that we can help avoid duplicate efforts or maybe random legislation that we could help focus. And so I think that's an important thing for you to all be thinking about, is why do you exist tied to what's coming up in your role up to the legislature. So,
yeah, Mr. Chair, can I do this one more time? Well, a couple of thoughts. One is, and if I need help restraining the executive director here as I say this, please.
Careful.
Somebody help me. You look at the Colorado River Authority and the fact that it has advisory councils as part of its structure. And there's certainly, it looks to me like there's opportunity for some synergy or even overlap and synergy with the watershed councils that will be organized under this act and under the Colorado River Authority Act. The other thing, Dan, I was waiting for you to say this, but you're probably waiting for a professional troublemaker to raise it. If you look at the UDOT model, with the local association of governments as the gathering point of information, the planning groups that put transportation planning together, and that rolls up to the Utah Transportation Commission, and then look at what's happening in the budgeting process over time with that group. Do you see them, if this council works right, we may have to be on the lookout, because we'll put a lot of water lobbyists out of work, because you look at you look at how the transportation group,
They'll be all right.
they'll be all right. All right.
They'll be fine.
Don't
shed any tears over this, guys.
Okay. But as to Dan's point, if you look at the effectiveness of how the transportation and education, now those, our children and our transportation are two vital portions of our society. Is water any less vital? And as we put, I can tell you that as Representative Hawks and all of us that worked on putting this act together, we're anticipating the time that this roll up from the local councils into the state council, and with the, I don't know what to call it, Candace, the logistical support and adult supervision from the division and the department. Why is this not an opportunity similar to what education and transportation have, and with good public reason and good public purpose for doing so? Because certainly our water planning, we can't live here without it. And if anybody would like to try that for about a week, step up and volunteer. We can't get by without water, and it's been proven in this last couple of years in particular how significant this really is. So that's, I'm trying to put out there the vision of what this model could become and how vital it could become to the state, and those other analogies, those other examples of how it works are very effective and very useful to us as a society. Whew, thanks for listening to that.
Great point. I agree. Yeah, Todd.
Just on duplication of efforts. Just wanted to give a quick update on, Sterling, what you brought up on the boards and commissions. The Water Development Commission, I believe the Natural Resources, Ag and Environment Committee is looking at that. There is a water audit that's going on with or from the Auditor General's office is looking at that also. So let's maybe see what they're going to come up with a little bit. Plus, there's a couple other things going on. I just hate water resources or the watershed councils to get into it too quick with everything else going on, just duplication type of thing. So just FYI.
Yeah, understood. Yep, that makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I had, but always
Great.
happy to receive any feedback or get any comments. Make sure to reach out to Todd or myself if there's specific agenda items you want to see, and we'll work with the chairs to make sure that happens, but just really grateful for all of you, so thank you.
Thank you, Candace. Very good. Appreciate it. And I failed to recognize Dustin Jansen, who's on the call. He's one of our board members. And Laura Briefer was on briefly and left. Yeah, I think I've mentioned Mark Stratford and Ken White when we started, but yes, thank you. All right, down to administrative updates.
Excuse me, did you
yes,
have room for
Marcel?
other public comment?
No, we're still there.
We haven't moved on, so.
Go ahead, Marcel.
No, thank you. I thought I'd just take advantage of that opportunity, which you so kindly offered. On behalf of the Great Salt Lake Watershed Enhancement Trust, which is co-managed by National Audubon Society and the Nature Conservancy, I just wanted to mention that you may know that the legislation provides that approximately that 25% of the funding is to be dedicated to efforts to protect or restore wetlands and habitats in the surrounding Great Salt Lake ecosystem that benefit the hydrology of Great Salt Lake. And so next week we'll be opening up a funding application process for projects that meet the criteria and requirements. There will be announcements that go out when that's live, and also it will be posted on the gslwater.org website. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, good.
Very cool.
Any other public comment? Don't want to stymie anybody's creativity or anyone? Going once? All right, moving on. So administrative updates. I'm not sure what you've got there, Todd, but I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate that we'd get through this agenda so quickly. Last time we discussed the certification of the first two, it was a lot more in-depth discussion.
It was a learning curve.
So, yeah, I apologize for not anticipating that. We might have had a chance for a good presentation or two in addition to those items. But we'll consider that next time for sure. Make
Sounds
sure
good.
we have
That'd be great.
some other things to discuss as well. Anticipating that future councils also go through fairly quickly. Okay, so administrative items, I didn't bring these up last time because we had those in-depth discussions, but just wanted to let the council know that what we're doing at the division to provide administrative support to the local councils, as well as this council. We have our website where we are creating an area for each local watershed council where we can list the meetings that are there, that are upcoming that we know about and that the councils inform us about. And we're going to have Carly and our area planning specialist work closely with those councils to get that information updated regularly. We're going to have lists of their members on there as well. So that's a place where you can go and look and find all of that information. We also have contact information from the division as well as the chair, and sometimes the secretary listed their email contact information right on our website, so they have an avenue to reach out to them directly. Wanted to remind all the members of this council and the local watershed councils that are here that if you travel to a meeting and incur some cost for meals and others, you are eligible to have per diem reimbursement for your travel expenses. Thus far, no one on this council has taken advantage of that, but just wanted to remind you of that's available. And if you want to take advantage of that or know what the rules are, what you'd be eligible for, you need to reach out to us, and there's a form or two to fill out. If you're not a state employee already there, that makes it easier if you're already a state employee, but just wanted to remind you of that. We're doing some, yes. Yes, yeah, that applies to all the councils. I guess we won't anticipate that as much with some of the local ones, but some of them are pretty big in area and might involve some travel in addition to this council. And then lastly, we've been working on a little maybe branding, some logos for this council that we will probably share via email at some point. Just get your input and thoughts on those so we can kind of have a little visual thing that we can put on our website and other correspondence that we do from the council. So look forward to that and your input on those. And if I may, I was going to follow Candace's comment up with another public comment of sorts.
You bet. Go ahead.
Having 4 councils here kind of as a captive audience as well as the statewide council. And going to the comment that Warren made about water planning, you know, as an agency, we do water planning, we do the state water plan. And we've seen these councils as a potential opportunity to engage with each of the basins that are our planning areas that we cover in the division to provide information that we can feed into the state water plan and bring that up before the citizens of the state as we're working together on this. And with the councils collaborating on this, I think that will be a powerful means to get their voices heard and their needs and priorities addressed in the state water plan in a way that's been difficult for us to do in the past. So these councils we look to as potentially assisting us with that if they are willing, and I hope they would be because I see that good opportunity there. So just seconding what Warren said, water planning can be coordinated through these watershed councils in a pretty powerful way. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Great discussion. Thank you. All right. Wrap up on upcoming council meetings. So it's got it scheduled for October 12th. It says here 1 to 3, but on our calendar invite, it was 9 to 11. So either that needs to be updated or I can't remember.
That would be my fault if it's incorrect. Let me double check on our website really quick. That one should be right.
But it is anticipated to be 1 to 3. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me double
Okay,
check. I'm
double
not
check.
sure.
All right. Very good. It is 1 to 3? Oh, mine says 9 to 11, and I can't change it. Okay, we'll verify that. Anything on wrap up before we call an adjournment? Great discussion, great participation by the the local watershed councils, and from our board, or from our council. Keep calling it board, I guess whatever works, right? But anyway, really appreciate everybody's participation, and we'll look forward to continued participation in the future. But this is how it's going to work. If it's going to be successful, we've got to all be here and attentive and participating. So, anything else?
So I did check the date and time, and we do have it as 1 to 3.
Okay.
That may be an old invitation that you never deleted from your calendar.
I'm going to delete it.
Yeah. I think we sent one out that was doing the whole year earlier or previously, and we have not stopped doing that, so we'll just give you an update of a couple months before an invitation.
Great. Thank you so much.
Could I just ask a favor?
Yes, I'm Marcel.
Is it possible that you can send out that invitation sooner rather than later, like now, just to make sure that we've got it on our calendars?
I'll add
I
that.
didn't have one on
Yeah,
my calendar.
definitely we can do that. I'll add that to our to-do list and do that right away.
Thanks.
All right, if nothing else, look for a motion to adjourn. Motion moved, seconded. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.